to trick my dad into filming a podcast with me, and it worked.
She was successful.
So I don't know exactly what we're going to talk about in this podcast, but I have 3 ideas. So I bought a bunch of weird pumpkin spice flavored foods, so we're going to try that and we're going to rate it. But also, so there's 2 topics we could talk about, and so I'm going to let you pick. Well, we might have time for both, we might have time for one. So 2 of the first one is...
This is really preparing in advance, isn't it?
So the first one is tattoos, and then the second one is we can talk about how my clothing line got started and how you feel about my clothing line and how you feel about the name of it, which happens to be Daddy's Rich at daddysrichclothing.com.
Daddy's not that rich.
Alrighty. So let's get straight
We could talk about my Microsoft foldable cell phone.
Okay, I feel like we should talk about that first, actually. Why don't you show that off to the camera?
Yeah. Oh, I love it. I love it. So, Surface Duo. And I love this phone. This is the first generation of it. I don't know what else to say about it other than it's super visible. It works great.
It's foldable. You got dual screens on it. For
those like me whose eyesight up close may be getting more challenged on a daily basis, you get 2 screens to look at. Beautiful color generation, very clear. Microsoft has not endorsed this, but I did work with the team to start up this product in the first generation from a manufacturing test standpoint, and so I'm a winner with it.
You can see why I have him on my podcast. He's really cool. Alrighty, I'm going to grab...
My phone? My phone's really cool?
Yeah, that's what I said.
That's what I thought.
Alrighty, so I'm going to bring some food over here for you to try. So first thing we have is... This one I found disturbing, so I bought it. Pumpkin spice flavored butter. Butter
spread.
Yeah, it's not real butter.
Farmer owned. It's owned by farmers.
I brought you the... So we're mostly vegan in this house. So like all the food we eat basically, well, we're not 100% vegan, but we eat like mostly vegan. So most of the food we eat is fake. So I got this fake bread as well. It's gluten free. It's just absolutely fake. And this fake butter. Does that have real butter in it?
It's got cream in it.
Okay, it's actually... It has some element of butter in it, so that's good.
And milk. It has animal substances in it, Natalie. Your vegan diet.
Oh God. Show the camera.
There's. Ooh.
Does it smell good? It actually smells pretty good. It smells like delicious.
Right. So farmer-owned Land of Lakes. Also, nobody has endorsed this other than me.
You're endorsing the Land of the Lakes?
Natalie. So, no, from a financial perspective.
I endorsed them today by buying this.
Okay, I'll go with that. Just, you gotta just give me a really small amount.
A small amount of bread or a small amount of butter?
Yes.
Is that small enough? You need
smaller.
Okay.
And it's
small enough.
It's huge amounts of sugar. Yeah.
Is it?
I
just sugar in it?
It does. 4 grams per teaspoon or tablespoon or.
That's not trustable.
What is it? 4 grams of 4.
You're not going to want to know what else I bought for us to eat then. If you're worried about the sugar content of this.
I'm worried about the sugar content of everything. It has to do with those...
Diabetinicism?
Yeah, the injections I give myself for breakfast every morning.
It's like eating frosting.
Well, on bread, what it is, it's like cinnamon roll with pumpkin pie juice poured on top, right?
That's really true.
Well, like anything that tastes really yummy and has lots of sugar, I shouldn't eat any more of it, and it's delicious. I like it.
I like it. It's like it's like buttercream frosting with extra butter, essentially. That's the flavor profile, in my opinion. Alrighty, let's
And
go on to
it
the
has
next
something
thing.
called a smart label trademark.
That's like how you convince people that things are healthy. So you like scan that and then you add it to your fitness app, I'm assuming, and then they're like, oh, you should eat like only a certain amount of this, and then they're like, your phone's like, you're so healthy.
I've never heard of a smart label.
Alright, so the second thing I got for us to try is these pumpkin ice cream sandwiches, which neither of us should be eating. This has gluten and this has sugar, so both of us are screwed. I didn't use the F word because I know that upsets you, but I was tempted. I was very tempted. But, okay.
It's good to know the training is starting to sink in.
It didn't work. Remember when I was like 9 years old and I said, oh, this is earlier than that. Remember when I was like 7 and you told me that I couldn't go and pop Tropica for a week because I said the F word? You remember that?
No.
Then you're like, I think you got annoyed.
Really? What's your name again?
I think you got annoyed with me early though, and then you were like, yo, you can go back on it. I don't know why. I probably was sitting around the house being annoying.
Incessant complaining to me.
No, I wasn't complaining. I remember just moping around a lot.
Did you bring an extra fork?
I did bring an extra fork. Do you want a fork?
Yeah, because I'm not going to eat half of this thing.
I'll eat half of it.
You're stuck with consuming the entire
All I've had today is a whole pizza, so I don't think that's enough food. I'm not joking, unfortunately. I've eaten a whole pizza today, that's it.
That's what happens when we let you go out on your own, isn't it?
I wasn't out on my own.
Do I have to try it before I hear what you say about it?
It's okay. It's not super flavorful. It has a little bit, it's just an ice cream sandwich with a little bit of a pumpkin spicy flavor. It's not overwhelming. It's not intense like the butter. The butter was like very intense.
You know, yeah, I still taste the butter more than it.
Yeah, it's very mild.
It has the cleansing sparkling pineapple flavored
Oh, that sounds good.
water.
I'm really dehydrated actually.
After eating that whole pizza?
Yeah, and I put a bunch of Parmesan on it, so.
All right, let's try this again. Yeah. So, definitely not as much pumpkin pie flavor. Not so much pumpkin pie, more just pumpkin.
Yeah.
Slightly seasoned pumpkin as an ice cream.
These are melting. I should put them outside where it's colder. By the way, we're sitting in our shed. This is literally a shed that we built together like 3 years ago. And I put floors in it, and then we wired it up, and we have like lights and heat. So that's pretty sick. I felt like I'd mentioned that. That's our set right now.
This is the long story.
There's always a long story. It's just so long.
Well, she's out of sight. We had another shed here that collapsed. It rotted away.
It's true.
It came with the house when we bought the property.
While you talk, I'm going to start trying this caramel apple dip.
So we bought a empty shed, or a shed frame, and it was built on site here, and it was going to be great. I was going to put some wood saws in it, some tools, and somewhere around nail 3 of the team that was putting up the frame, it became the she shed. And the truth of it is that Natalie and I put up all the wood paneling.
Yeah.
What you can't see is a nice set of stairs on the other side of the camera.
This is really good,
There's
by
a
the way.
window going out.
10 out of 10.
It's heated. It's really nice. I do have some saws and stuff here, but really they're just here temporarily while I build the mower carport on the side of the shed.
It's true.
Which you may have seen pieces of when...
In my, what did I name that video? I'm making a sword out of wood, parentheses, making Grimes a cereal sword.
Okay.
Yeah.
Is that what you named it?
Yeah.
All I know is that somewhere in it I am sawing wood and being told to take care of my fingers.
You were problematically close to that saw. But try this. But
Are
also
you
this is
enjoying
terrible.
that?
Yeah, I am actually. So this is like, I would see this in stores as like a child. I would be like, that looks amazing. I wish I could have that. But my mom like was sugar restrictive. So I never got
Your
it.
mother was, no.
What other term could I use? Like sugar restrictive? What's a better term to use for that? You know what I mean?
She was never sugar restrictive.
I mean, I
She
don't
lives
know.
on sugar.
But she wouldn't have let me buy something like this. Okay, so she was organic and she said she was sugar restricted, but she only ate organic-y sugary things. So I wasn't allowed to eat things that were like unhealthy like this. So I got this and it's really good. I'm fulfilling my childhood fantasies. And tomorrow I'm gonna wake up and it's gonna be like a sugar hangover and I'm just gonna be like falling over in the house. Like
That's your way of saying
collapsing.
that this whole thing will be gone by the morning.
You doubt it?
No, I'm not contesting such a assumption. I wonder if it has sugar in it, and it's
Hard to
bad for
say.
us diabetic people.
One thing that diabetics are supposed to eat are like vegetables are super high in fiber. Like,
Fruits are considered okay as a sugary taste item.
yeah,
as
but
long
only
as
the
you
lower
don't
sugar,
overdo it,
lower
right?
sugar fruits. Yeah, so like raspberries. All berries are really low in sugar, so if you're diabetic, you should go more for berries and less like bananas and stuff if you want a lot of fiber.
All right, I've achieved my candy for this month.
Alright. What do you want to try next? You want to try coffee?
I am thinking this iced coffee thing.
So I got this, and it looked super good. It was kind of expensive. It was like $5 actually.
So I got to give a call out about this cup,
Okay.
right?
You got to plug someone else's merch on this podcast,
Well,
huh?
So a number of years ago, I worked with an individual. His name is Joel, and I won't give you his last name. And if he ever gets around to seeing this, he'll see it. And one day, Joel came, and he was a coworker. He was not an employee of mine, but he came to my office and he gifted me this lovely cup with a drawing of his pet dog on it. And I have kept it all these years.
It's pretty sick.
I'm thinking I've had this, thinking he gave it to me before we bought this house. So it was,
Does this have milk in it?
it had to be more than 6 years ago.
It does have milk in it.
So, but it sat in my office for forever. And then recently I decided to bring it home.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's very pretty.
So-
It's starting to fade though.
It's nice. I think the story behind it is the best part of
That he made these of his dog and then he gave them out to people.
well that he gave it out to me,
Yeah.
right? In that
You feel honored by his dog.
I did feel honored, and
Yeah.
and one of the things that I've learned over what we were talking about it earlier, but I've been working in tech industry
For
for
like 43 years or something. Literally.
No.
It might be slightly less.
No.
It's like 38 years.
November 21st,
Yeah.
1982.
Yeah.
So it is 39 years in a couple of weeks.
Yeah.
In fact, I graduated from tech college on October 14th, 1982. So, and
Before you some of this,
I've
you're just gonna
yeah.
keep talking.
I've managed a number of people. I've managed a number of teams. And I've been in the role of having to let people go when companies are not doing well financially, and
Yeah. So
helping people
you should
build
backtrack.
their careers.
So we were in reference to that. What we were talking about is we were discussing how people who are higher in the trait of like aggressiveness. Not the aggressiveness is the wrong term, but it's like confrontation. Like people who crave confrontation. Because you and I both don't necessarily crave confrontation. We prefer to avoid it. But then if it's like we have to, we feel like we've reached our boiling point, then we will go all out and we will go after people. Like, we're willing to at certain... This is such a weird conversation. It has such a big backstory.
I'm amazed
but
that you
it's
actually...
interesting to include in this podcast, I think.
Yeah, I'm surprised you went down that road, but
yeah,
every negotiation
yeah.
is some form of confrontation.
It is, because you're putting yourself above what the other person wants. And we think about that as a really interesting thing, you know what I mean? We're thinking about that as, oh, that's selfish, but if you're not bargaining, you have to at least be bargaining as hard on your own behalf as you are on that other person's behalf. Otherwise, you're letting them walk over you, essentially. And that's not a particularly eloquent way of saying that. There are far better ways, but that is essentially what it is.
Well, one would say negotiation is probably a more effective word.
Yeah. Life is a negotiation, essentially, especially
confrontation
in
is just the statement that individuals are willing to express that they don't necessarily agree with someone else on a subject. It doesn't mean it's violent. It doesn't mean it's mean. It means it's disagreement, and it's about talking through that disagreement and trying to better, I'm thinking.
Okay, I'm going to talk about this coffee then. This coffee is really...
Interrupted
by
good. Pumpkin ice coffee.
Well, I'm trying to keep a theme to this podcast, but we know it's just going to be us rambling into like these various subjects, but I'm trying to like have some coherence to it. But this is really good. It has cream, it has sugar. It's terrible for you, probably. Fuck, it's really bad. It's like 13 grams of sugar.
What did you say? I didn't hear that. Can you repeat that, please?
Fudgesicle.
Fudgesicles? I thought it was pumpkin flavored.
It's really bad for you. It has 13 grams of sugar. It's delicious. It's like drinking... If you want to be cheap and you like pumpkin spice lattes, this isn't very spicy, but it is a good pumpkin and a good latte flavor. So if you want to be like kind of cheap and you want to save money, this would be a good option for you to have your Starbucks style coffee for less. But coffee aficionados might go after me and be like, it's nothing like that, because, you know, it probably isn't. But to me, it's very similar based on my very limited understanding of coffee and coffee flavors and Starbucks latte type of taste.
So what I would say is that it's not as acidy.
That's true, actually.
It has less acidic taste than Starbucks. It is very good.
It is. It's like a latte. It has a lot of cream in it. It has a lot of milk in it. It has a lot of sugar.
12 fluid ounces.
Oh, it's actually 19 grams of sugar. What is
24 grams of carbs and 19 grams of sugar. Okay.
This will kill you. Like, if you drink this every day, this will take like a year off your life, probably.
Yeah. We know we're going to be giving ourselves some other pills before we go to bed.
That sounds... You should specify that that's from diabetes, because that sounds relatively questionable.
For blood glucose control.
Yep.
Interesting. Contains milk, tree nuts, processes from a factory that processes.
You don't have to read all the ingredients.
I can't help myself.
I know, but you were going on topic and I derailed you, so you need to re-rail.
Yeah.
Re-railed the railroad. Re-railed the mental railroad.
I forgot what the topic was.
Well, you're talking about, I don't know how you got to this, but you worked in the tech industry, then letting people go.
Oh.
Then derailed into...
My real topic, and it's funny because I made a comment about this on LinkedIn recently? A couple of hours ago. Do you regularly comment on people's LinkedIn stuff? Never.
That's what I thought. That's why I'm like, it's so weird that you're saying this.
I mean, I press the thumbs up button
me too.
on things, and you know, I see things from people around the world that I've worked with in the past. Mm-hmm. But there was a statement about it's better to, and I'm ad-libbing this.
Yeah.
I'm not going to open my phone and look it up right now.
Yeah.
But it talks about managers who abuse people to get what they want, managers who try to lock people in a position so that they stay and the manager doesn't have to look for a replacement. And then managers that provide guidance, support, and opportunities to their employees, even if it means the employees leaving the company. And that's a belief I've followed for 30 plus years in that, especially where we live. I've been working in this region for 30 plus
Seattle area.
I
say
have
that 'cause it's not very specific, but yeah.
the Seattle area.
Yeah.
But I have,
I'll be right
probably a couple thousand people who I've worked with and known, peers, bosses, employees, co-workers, right?
Yeah.
And direct employees who have said, this isn't the career I really wanted or what I was hoping for. And I've had that talk with them, and I've said, what are you hoping for? And I'll get an answer.
Yeah.
And I'm not going to use an exact example because who knows who's watching this, and I don't want people to feel like I'm talking about them, but they would tell me, and it's something different than what they were doing in my organization. I said, okay, here's what we're going to do for the next 6 months. There is these organizations in the company that we're working for, and I have reasons to have resources on my team go to those organizations, even though those organizations are in California or other areas in the world, right? And I should look at the camera.
Yeah.
And
every once in a while, it's a good thing to do.
And I would do that, and my comment was, make friends, talk to them, tell them of your interest, and at some point you're going to find out they're looking for people, and you tell them you'd love to join their team.
Yeah.
And they're welcome to call me about it. And I said, my only ask for you is that you don't try to leave in 2 weeks.
Yeah.
Because usually they're telling me this in their first 3 to 6 months of being on the job and realizing it wasn't what they thought it was or had hoped it would be. And so I've had a number of employees. At one time I had an employee who came to me, and the funny thing is I had already spoken to another team and said, you need to look at this guy. He's great. He's talented. On my team, I'm only going to use him at this lower role. I don't have a position for him. Put him on your team. He will serve you well.
Yeah.
And I use different words, of course.
Yes.
So then my employee came up to me 2 weeks later. He goes, Robert, we need to talk. I said, okay. And again, I'm ad-libbing words.
Yeah.
And he said, I was spoken to by an individual on this other team, and are you okay with me accepting a position on that other team? And I looked at him and I said, and again, I won't use his name, I said, I've been waiting for you to ask me this question for 2 weeks now.
Yeah.
Yes, accept the position. I've already spoken to this individual. Go. It's what you want to do. It's what you want to be.
Yeah.
Get over there and learn the skills that you want to learn in that group, and gain the experience. And
I think
that's the kind of discussions I was having with Joel back in the day.
Yeah.
And that's this was actually
you feel
a
like
token
that's,
of appreciation for advice I gave him on how to help his career and move it forward.
I think something I was discussing earlier today with someone else, and something that kind of integrates into this and I find beautiful, is what I find is that people are obsessed with making someone else's dream come true. People will not make their own dreams come true. They won't do what they want. And I'm not sure why that is. I'm not sure if it's they never define it, or if it's like kind of, I'm sure it's 100% mental. Like it's it's a mental thing where people won't go after what they want, but if they see someone who has a similar dream to them, they will go out of their way to help that person and make that person's dream happen. Like when I was working with the individual that I was working with at Facebook, that was the case. That's what I found out as I talked to him, for the 5 times or whatever I talked to him, is this was his dream. His dream was to drop out of college and to have a business.
Right.
That's why he was bargaining so hard on my behalf. And
Yeah.
I was less passionate about this thing than he was. But he was bargaining so hard on my behalf because that was his dream.
Yeah.
And that's a fascinating thing that I've been observing.
Well, one of the things, it gets on this whole subject, I've always measured my success by the success of my team.
Yeah.
Right? And so when I would go through these review processes, I'd call out the name of each person on my team, and I'd talk about, and I'd do a write-up of, in the last review, these were the goals we set forth, these were the areas we identified improvement needed to be done, these were the actions taken to achieve that improvement. And I watched those items. I observed them on my team. I tracked them. I talked to the employees about it, the team members about it on a regular basis. And the goal there was to get them to keep moving forward, to keep learning and move in the direction of what they wanted to learn. And it wasn't, did I write the best report to do the best presentation? That wasn't the job. The job was how to acquire, build, and escalate the best talent that you could do to achieve the goals of the business, right? Yeah. And sometimes that's people going out the door. Sometimes it's people going to the right training.
I think you hit the nail on the head, and what I'm seeing is like that's fitting people into the niches where A, they're interested in, and B, where they can grow and they're having a bit of, I kind of hate this term, but we'll say self-actualization. I don't necessarily love that term, but I think that's a term that fits with this, because the thing is people won't, and so I watched this fascinating, it was actually about, it referenced Elon Musk, and it was that people won't do things unless they see a purpose in doing them. So it's difficult when you're educating people at even an elementary school level, when you're saying, memorize this formula, memorize this, and they have no idea why. It's just a formula. They don't know how in the hell is this going to be applicable to anything that is positive that I will do in my life going forward.
Right.
And that's what that kind of reminded me of.
Yeah. There's a word you used, the niche, right?
Yeah.
And that's another one of those critical things. And there's a whole talk about diversity. Yeah. And different perspectives and niches. Niches.
I don't know how you. I think I say niche, and I think people get mad at me and say it's the wrong word, but I'll use it
It's
today.
that word.
Yeah.
Starts with the letter N. But if you can take, people used to ask me, can you solve any problem? And I don't know. You asked me a physics question like that the other day, right? We talked a little bit about the laws of physics, and those kinds of things. But in the realm of staying within the human knowledge of physics, if you can get a group of people talking to each other, you can solve any problem. What you think is impossible can be solved if you get people talking to each other. And You know, the diversity thing, and I'm not going to call out all the different types of diversities, but the different cultures, the different belief systems, the different thought processes each individual develops based on their own personal experience, joys in life, disasters in life, challenges.
It's true.
All create different perspectives. And if you give an opportunity to let those people express those perspectives, to shine, you end up with a better result than, you know, that one subject matter expert, right? Because the subject matter expert already knows it all,
and I think,
and they have their way. But sometimes the answer is from someone who knows very little about the
actual
problem.
the actual like technical even like the technical aspects of the subject,
Right.
but then they can just have this outside perspective, and they see across all of the
No.
elements that are at play.
They see the waves.
Yeah.
Gotta pull that
Oh
out.
my gosh, it's so nerdy.
They see
So
the waves,
physics-y with your resonant wavelengths.
but they don't see absolute details, but
Yes.
they see
The pattern. I guess.
patterns.
Yeah.
Right, that's what a wave is. It's a
Yes.
pattern, and they're able to see that and come up with unique ideas that change things. And you know,
Yeah.
Apple phones, the perfect example. None of it was new technology. All it was putting a bunch of different technologies together and a really well-built software package so it was easy to use.
Yes, the user friendliness I think, is actually the key to that. There was a lot of other good elements, but user friendliness was the top one. That's why, you know, things like Samsung and aren't on that level still. I would say aspects of those technologies are better than the Apple technologies, but you have so much user friendliness with Apple.
It's different markets.
Yeah.
Boy, we could go 3 hours down this, but
this is going to be a long form video, isn't it?
Yeah. But then I kind of want to.
What do you want to talk about?
I was gonna make a comment about you and the e-commerce and YouTube.
So let's go.
And
let's do a brief. Let's do a brief history about that. The brief history about that is. The brief history about that is you and I went on a trip to California, and I'm a mess. I'm having this emotional breakdown basically the whole time for personal reasons that I won't get into. I'm basically like, oh, my life, it is messed up, man. And then I'm trying to think of these businesses. It's so messed up, and I'm not even going that deep into it, but it's already messed up. But
it's not messed up, by the way.
Yeah, I went to therapy. They said I was pretty normal. I tried to figure out what was wrong with me. I'm just normal.
Messed up from the perspective of somebody at her age whose life is messed up in their perspective of life and expectation.
So, we go to California. I'm a mess. I'm like, I want to start a business, and we're coming up with all these businesses to start. And it's just like a 7-day road trip. It's like we're hitting a state a day. So we're driving 10 hours straight. We're not stopping. I tell people about this, and they're like, that doesn't sound very fun. I mean, they don't say that, but they look at me and they're like, that's not very fun. And it really isn't. Like, it was the best experience of my life.
It was a blast.
It was extraordinarily fun. I don't think I would have had it any other way. I wouldn't have stopped, because you get to see so much in the car. And we did stop every once in a while, but it's not like we were having
We saw the biggest tree in the redwood forest,
and we had pictures with it, and
walked there.
Went to the Grand Canyon.
We saw the Grand Canyon and walked along it. We
went to Las Vegas. We went to we went to Area 51. If you're in Las Vegas, that's really fun. Wait, is it Area 51? No, it's Area 15. Sorry. Area 15 in Las Vegas. It's art. It's a huge art exhibit. It's like this rave. There's a lot of bars in there, but there's also like there's like a Picasso thing, and then there's like what's it?
we walked on Ventura Beach,
Mart,
right? We San Francisco. We went to
San
the Golden
Francisco
Gate
is
Park.
beautiful. I loved it there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was, the park was really nice.
We went to Hollywood very briefly, but that wasn't like either of our cups of tea. It just wasn't like us. So
we went
left.
to what was it? A vegan.
Yeah, we went to a vegan restaurant. That was
Hollywood.
really good, actually.
The food at the restaurant was great.
Yeah.
I can't remember the name of it. Do you remember the name?
No.
The food.
Oh, it was like called Flora or something.
Yeah.
It had the word Flora in it. So if you type in Flora Vegan Cafe Hollywood, you'll find it.
Yeah, they were awesome. We had great service, and the lady there, that was her first day.
Yeah, it was her first day. So she was bringing out the food, and she was like, "Oh, this looks really good." And in my mind, I was like, "Oh, of course you'd say that. You're working here and you're trying to sell food." But she was just like seeing the food for the first time, so she was like, "Oh, this food looks really good." But yeah.
Anyhow,
but we digress again.
So we did that. We went down to the beach, and we drove through Lompoc in Vandenberg Air Force Base.
Yeah, that was cool.
And then we drove down to San Diego.
Yeah.
And went to the marina there. Watched some naval ships go in and out.
Okay, so yeah, you're right. It's wait. It's 4 hours away.
4 hours, so it's about 240 miles.
Yeah, 275 miles.
There you go.
That's scientific. But anyway, we hella digressed. So what it was is this clothing line. We went to the aspects of the kitchen, but what it was is this clothing line. So in the car, I'm going through all these ideas. I'm like, I could paint my own t-shirts, but then I'm going into the feasibility of those ideas, and I'm realizing all of these ideas, making t-shirts myself and like painting them by hand, I would have to charge $100 for t-shirts. I don't want to charge people $100 for t-shirts. I wouldn't buy a $100 t-shirt. Nobody's gonna buy a $100 t-shirt unless I have like this fine crafted artistry, which I could probably spend like marketing and everything. I probably spend like 20 to 30 minutes on each t-shirt, realistically speaking. I can't paint t-shirts for hours and hours a day and sell them for like $100. That didn't work. Then I was trying to figure out, okay, so I go to a supplier. I make these designs and I just go to a supplier. And then I'm looking at suppliers and I'm realizing I'm going to be ordering stuff in bulk. And that's going to be like thousands of dollars. I'm going to have to put thousands of dollars in up front into a market that I'm not going to know anything about. I'm not going to know if this stuff is even sellable at that point. But that digresses even more. So I'm going to this t-shirt idea, and then, so this is a part where I tell people, and I'm not sure if they're like, ooh, you're a crazy genius, or if you're actually crazy. So a few months...
In either case, you're crazy.
I know. I went to therapy and everything. But anyway... So 6 months earlier, approximately, and which is weird because I go back now and I literally had this written down on my phone 6 months ago, and that is, walking around my kitchen, I have this vision. A vision is a strong word. It's just more like I had a thought or an idea, and it was like, oh, well, that's striking in some way for me. Walking around my kitchen, have this vision of this jacket that says "Daddy's Rich" on the back, and I tell people about this, and they just laugh, but. So I have that thought, and then I go, like, to give out my life a few months later, and I have the thought again, and at that point, and then I guess, so I have that thought again, and it's a very strong thought, and then I go, and I have this thought a third time, and I start going into it, and that's when I wrote in my phone, I'm like, okay, I'm going to go, I didn't actually do this, but this was, the plan at that point. It was like, okay, I'm going to go on Craigslist, I'm going to find these models, I'm going to set them up by a pool, I'm going to give them these denim jackets, it's going to be a whole thing. And then, so, down the line, like 4 months or whatever down the line, I don't think it was necessarily 6 months, we go on this California trip, and I'm doing this whole t-shirt idea, which I wasn't particularly passionate about. I didn't feel like my soul was in that. But then, I have the idea, I remember this Daddy's Rich thing, and like, I mean, it's relatively awkward because you're my father and Daddy's Rich clothing. That's... It
does potentially make a suggestion.
It gets weird fast, it just gets weird fast. But I tell you about this, and then you're like, that could actually work. And we knew at that point, the market felt like it was in the right place for this type of brand and for this type of branding.
Well, yeah, I liked it because it had a specific branding path for it.
Yeah,
right?
it cuts its own, forges its own path.
We spent a lot of time thinking of, how to set up the e-commerce business and how to structure it. And I liked those.
And we liked, we went with a Shopify-based website design, it's a really good, for people who don't know anything and who don't know they don't know a lot about coding, you can do it easily, and also like the amount of coding that you will need to do, which if you don't want to code, you don't have to do any coding at all, but if you want to do like a few specific features, you can easily find coding tutorials on YouTube, and that's what I did, is I found coding tutorials on YouTube. You can see like in the very early vlogs I did on my channel that I was doing that. I would go and I would code like Facebook Messenger into my store, or I would go and I would code like just very lightly, but then when it got deeper into that, I had to hire a web developer. But you can hire people to do very specific things for your business for relatively inexpensive if you use Fiverr, because you're outsourcing to other countries. But yeah, so that's interesting. Let's see, where else was I going to go with this?
And the things that you needed done weren't weeks of work, right?
Yeah, it's true.
It was a day of work here, and so it wasn't that expensive.
It wasn't expensive at all. Like we could have. The
but
thing
I think,
is we could have gone even cheaper. We could have gone far cheaper than what we did. I mean, it wouldn't be.
If this thing collapses underneath me, it's all your fault.
That's true, because I made that thing.
I know. I will hold you personally accountable to my broken bun.
So the camera angle might be slightly different, so we apologize if it is slightly different. We apologize for any thing weird that's happening with this lighting here, because it looks kind of weird on camera, but we're just going to ignore it, and we're going to continue with our talk. Do you feel like you're in your magical spotlight?
No.
Jesus Christ. Okay, where were we?
We're talking about the business.
Yeah.
But I think so she brought this up while we were driving, the name.
Yeah.
And I liked it. I thought it sounded good.
Yeah.
What I liked most was her passion about it. Was your passion about it?
Yeah.
Right? And
I
think the key part of this it's which is my perspective, is, my mom ran a business when I was a child, and it was her business. And then I started a company many, many years ago designing industrial instruments. And so my thought about this was, if you have the passion for it and you have the interest in it at your age, and in the business model, the profits aren't huge, but the risk approaches
very, very
zero.
Low, yes. Instead of a huge profit margin now and putting in thousands and thousands of dollars into
equipment
or mostly inventory. Yeah.
The risk approaches zero, and the challenges are ones of learning these tool sets
and marketing,
learning how to present yourself, how to market, right?
Yes.
And so I said, I'll support you in doing it.
Yes.
And I think it's what are we talking about? July, August.
So we started we started conceptually talking about this business at the very beginning of August, because we got back from our trip about like August 3rd-ish, approximately. Then we we went a couple weeks screwing around, we'll say. We didn't screw around. It was all strategizing, but it wasn't specific. We didn't accomplish anything specific. And then we bought. Then we didn't buy. The ironic thing about this is you could start this whole business based on free trials that you can get from these companies.
Yeah.
Literally, you do not have to put a dime in. But so we get the Shopify free trial. We don't really do anything with it. Then I go straight and I bury myself. We're like working 12 hours a day for like what? Like a month. We'll say approaching a month. That's probably like 3 weeks. But so I bury myself working 12 hours a day, having my emotional breakdowns on the side, cry, work for 12 hours. And keep in mind, it's not like I'm being tyrannized here. This sounds bad, but I'm literally doing this for myself. It's not a matter of like, oh, someone's telling me this. I'm literally tyrannizing myself. I'm tyrannizing myself to work 12 hours a day. They'll never think it's anything else.
That's what I mean about the passion,
yes.
right? You're so focused.
I wake up and I want to do that because I don't want to do anything else at this point, and I try to make myself do other stuff, and I don't want to, like, doing things that people would think are fun. This sounds so weird, but it's true. Doing things that people would think are fun, like going out and for pizza or doing stuff that literally brings me less enjoyment than working. And that's a bizarre place to be in. Well, but it's a very interesting place as well.
You know, there's the statement of if you can make money doing what you love to do, you never have to get a job. Right?
Yeah, you'll never work a day in your life.
You'll never work a day in your life. You had a great passion for the brand.
Yeah.
A great passion for kicking this thing out of the or driving it out of the driveway. I don't know, for launching it.
Yes.
Some usage of words.
Yes.
And
really, I wanted it to work, and I wanted it to work so badly that I was able to. That I went at it, and I said, okay, I need to do this. I don't know how to do this. Yeah. And I would watch a tutorial on YouTube. YouTube is so great. I love YouTube. But yeah, I just watched a tutorial and figure out how to do whatever I had to do. And
my perspective was, and still is, and we had talked about this yesterday.
Yeah.
You're learning stuff. You're learning stuff that's not, how to watch television. You're learning skills of communication, marketing.
Yes. I'm probably talking too quietly. I should talk louder.
E-commerce. There's a multitude of technical skills involved in this. I don't use that term loosely and in my belief incorrectly, because that whole skill of trying to develop a communication on a YouTube and Instagram in a set of images of products, all of those are communication skills, and all of those are forms of marketing and presenting yourself, and all of those are skills that will last your entire life.
It's true.
And
talking.
For me, the most important piece is that you are learning, you're growing, and you're doing something that, hopefully can become a financial support for you moving down the road. And I think we're starting to see action happening. Yeah, right?
We've had people add stuff to the cart on the website.
Right.
And we realized that we have some international customers who want this stuff, so we extended the shipping to Europe, Canada, and Mexico, and the US, of course.
Yeah. And the other piece of this that makes me proud and is that you are doing it, right? I'm not doing this. Yeah. You're doing it.
Yeah.
I'm more, shall we say, emotional support and some financial support.
Yeah, when I derail into a state of absolute chaos.
Motivational support. But I think it's moving forward well. I'm pleased with it. I feel like I'm rambling on now about the subject.
You realize that's the point of a podcast, I think.
Oh,
is we just
to ramble.
We talk and we talk and we talk until we just fall over on the floor and we pass out.
Okay.
And then when it turns into like one of those 24-hour like sleeping challenges where you stay somewhere overnight, and it's just us but it's not anywhere cool. It's just us in our shed. We fell over and we passed out, essentially.
Yeah, so I was supposed to pass out somewhere around 19 minutes ago. So, yeah, it's coming soon.
Okay, all right.
Anyhow.
So
What else did you want to talk about?
No.
You never brought out the frosted flake thing.
So we'll do that. So I thought my assumption was that these were Halloween flavored, but they were not, however, Halloween flavored. They're just ball flavor.
But are you speaking English right now?
I'm always speaking English, Father. Aren't you aware of that fact? But anyway.
Are these basketball flavored?
Yeah, so I thought they were pumpkin flavored, but they literally aren't. They're just cinnamon basketballs, and they were 50% off in the bargain bin, so you know they were popular.
I see.
So we can try that.
That's the measure of popularity is 50% off.
Yep.
Okay.
It looks interesting. It has a variety of things in it.
This is frosted flakes, so this is effectively sugar on cardboard with some dye to give it color.
Yeah, America's screwed in the way of everyday foods.
I'm sure Kellogg is going to chase me down for my cardboard statement. I'm just making that up, Kellogg. Just so that you know, I'm making it up.
Ooh.
Good.
I don't know.
I will eat.
You can try the basketballs. We don't have
one of the basketballs.
I brought almond milk, but I don't even want to do that anymore.
No.
I'm pretty good.
Oh, they're gonna hate me more.
You don't like it?
Apple Jacks in an orange basketball.
What's the vine? My name is something. I have a basketball game tomorrow. He doesn't know because he's like old, but that's a Vine reference.
Did you just call me old?
Yeah. I'm old too, though.
I'm not the sports person.
Not the youth
I'm not
I
the
used
sports
to be.
watcher.
I've never watched any sports. It's actually, well, just like, so alternative. No. So,
well, you didn't grow up in a house of football and baseball and basketball every day.
I don't have any brothers. And also, you were like in China half my life. So, my male influences are
I was also
low.
in Taiwan and Malaysia.
That's true, and Japan.
And Korea.
Yeah. But
in India.
To be fair, don't they like soft? What sport do they like in India a lot?
You know what?
What do they like there?
I don't know.
I feel like there's a sport
they do that English sport with the bat.
Cricket?
Cricket, yeah.
Yeah. I think that.
But what I found interesting, now that you bring it up.
I'm going to attract mice in here. I'm dropping stuff. I'm dropping cereal on the ground.
In China, they love basketball.
Basketball?
Basketball.
Interesting.
They would always want me to play basketball with them. And of course, I'm playing basketball with a bunch of individuals who are
significantly shorter than you for the most part.
We would say less tall than me.
Yeah, you're tall even by you're relatively tall even by American standards.
And with my balance issues and my busted up knee and can't see straight. I could barely hit the basket with that basket. All these people just did dancing around me. It was awful. It was awful for me. They had a blast.
Oh, right. Okay. I figured it out.
They loved to have me on the opposing team.
That's amazing.
I would be the last guy they would vote for.
Oh, why don't you talk about getting kidnapped? That's an interesting one. I mean, you don't have to if you don't want to.
It's a long story, but being kidnapped in China.
Yeah.
What was it? It's funny. I was looking at all those pictures a week ago.
Yeah.
And I pulled the pictures of the Christmas tree you girls built that year.
The one that I made out of toilet paper roll?
The toilet paper Christmas tree.
Mom was talking about that. Sorry, I'm chewing. My mom was talking about that recently too. You were remembering that and how weird it was that I was like, oh, we don't have a Christmas tree? So I was took paper towel rolls and I took toilet paper rolls and I just fabricated a Christmas tree and I was 6 feet tall. It might have been 10 feet tall. It was very tall.
So it was
I just made that for no reason. I was just really creative and I just made that for no reason. I was like, okay, we need a Christmas tree. Let's make one.
That must have been, 15 years ago?
Oh my God.
But
it had to be like 2009.
yeah, probably 2009, so 12 years ago. And at the time,
So
I was
like 9
doing
years old.
these month in China, month in America, month in China, month in America.
Yeah.
And I had, let's see if I can remember this. I had hired a car. I needed to get to the airport. And it was December 23rd, right? It was the day before Christmas in China. And the goal was to catch a plane and get home by Christmas Eve in America.
And what was interesting is even like probably like the next 5 years, you carry this weird, and even before this perhaps, you carry this weird cycle with your travel, which wasn't intentional, but would just happen, where you would be gone for like 2 days before Christmas. You come home like 2 days before Christmas, like every year.
Yeah.
Because it was like, you would say, oh, I'm going to be home on 15th, but your travel gets delayed.
Yeah.
Because your travel would always get delayed. It's not like, you know, any reflection on you at all, but it's like, you would always come home like 2 days before Christmas, or like that day, or like 3 days before. It's just interesting observation, but yeah, go ahead.
So I got on oh, that's right. So I took a taxi to a ferry terminal. So I was in South China, kind of Shenzhen region, and I would catch a ferry ride from the mainland over to Hong Kong, and then fly out of Hong Kong into Taiwan, and then from Taiwan into Seattle.
Yeah.
And I think it was a 23-hour trip.
Yeah.
23-hour trip each way.
It's crazy, the stuff you did.
So I got a taxi and headed down to the ferry terminal, but we got stuck in traffic. So I got to the ferry terminal and I was there too late. You had to be there I'm making up a number because I don't remember anything worthwhile. But had to be there an hour and a half before the ferry took off and buy your ticket.
Yeah.
So they wouldn't sell me the ticket. I said, oh, I got to get on a plane tonight. And I always tried to get there early, but this time I failed. So I'm talking to that security guard at the ferry terminal in China who spoke good English, and he goes, I have a friend. Let me go get you a ride. So I get in a taxi, and we agree that they'll take me to Hong Kong by road for somewhere around 400 yuan. 400.
How much is that approximately US?
Well, so somewhere around $70.
Okay.
Right.
Yeah.
Somewhere around $70.
Yeah, I'm just being a nerd. I like to know. But
it's like a ratio of 6 to 1, right?
Yeah. That's true. Yeah.
So yeah, somewhere around $70. Okay, and I had my Apple phone back then, right?
Yeah.
Because it was the only thing that worked with the scanned laser pico projectors I was producing in China, right?
Those were cool.
Another awesome product from another company I worked for 11 years.
Oh my gosh. Yeah.
Known as Microvision.
Yeah.
And I'll give a thumbs up for Microvision. They know their technology, I can say that. And worked with some incredibly talented individuals there.
Yes.
And actually have worked with many of those individuals for the last decade as well after I left there. But I digress. He drove me And at some point he said, I have to get gas. Okay. So we stopped and he put gas in the taxi and we hopped back in and he started driving down roads with fields on both sides, not on the freeway. And he drove into the middle of a field, a dirt field, and he picked up his phone and made a phone call. And then a van drives up and I want to say 7, but I think it was only 5 individuals got out of the van.
Yeah.
And they're all, I don't know, they're fit, they're skinny though, right? They're skinny people in China, and please, I'm not trying to, this is not meant to say anything about individuals' abilities or whatever, but I'm a big guy.
He's big, and at that point you were like pretty overweight as well. So you were,
well,
you had a large, we'll say you had a large amount of physical prowess.
I was bigger. Holy cow.
Yeah.
But these guys were smoking cigarettes and they walk up, and then the taxi driver says, I will take you to Hong Kong for $1,800 US. You must pay me in cash right now. And I said, what? $1,800 US. Now, it's a weird number. You would think $1 million or $1,000 or 10,000.
Was this maybe maybe he's like trying to use psychology, and it's like a weird. It's like, you know, when you list houses and it's like they give him a weird number, like it's not like zeros at the end. It's like you do like 896,85,000. He's trying to use psychology to get you to pay the ransom.
Yeah.
That's the only logical explanation I can see.
It's very possible.
I'm joking.
It was just a ridiculous number. It confuses me today still. It actually makes my head hurt thinking about it. Anyhow, $1,800. If anybody who worked with me back then is watching this, they know this story. They've heard it before. And I got somewhat upset.
Yeah.
I got agitated.
I mean, like, you literally got kidnapped, so, like, what are we going to say? Oh, yeah, you should have been so much nicer to your captor.
So,
you didn't get Stockholm Syndrome and identify with him enough.
Yeah.
You should have identified with him.
So, these 5 guys circle around me.
Yeah.
But the biggest one, the tallest, right, he's smoking a cigarette, and he comes, I don't know, this far from me.
God.
And $1,800, and I just kind of dropped it, right? Lost it, and I walked up and I did the, you know, he's got a cigarette, and I'm walking straight up to him, and he moves the cigarette, and I nose to nose, and I said, "Do you have any business with me? I mean, really, do you have any actual business with me? Because if you don't have business with me, you better get the," and we'll say a number of different words appeared in this blank part of the sentence. Get in your van and get another couple of words out of here.
Yeah.
And he turns to his guys and he goes, "We're going." And they turned around and they ran to the van.
So literally, this whole group of like 5 people in a van who drove up specifically to intimidate you. You were so intimidating to them that they literally stranded this poor dude who tried to kidnap you and had this whole fucking plot with these dudes.
Exactly.
It's absolutely fascinating.
And, you know, I think it's safe to say I probably looked like, you know, an axe murderer or something, right?
Yeah, you just got you lost
so then
so much.
I went to the taxi, and back then I was using a briefcase that was my father's. My father died in the 70s, but I always had his briefcase.
Yeah.
and it had a metal frame around it and then plastic. I think it was no, I don't remember what brand it was.
Yeah.
It was
I'll just say that it was a brand that was like, I'm assuming this is what you're
it wasn't Samsonite. It was like American Traveler or something.
Yeah,
but
so it was, what you're saying was this is a very sturdy and heavy,
sturdy, strong,
American,
lockable, heavy,
yeah,
with a
briefcase.
computer in it. Right?
Yeah, so this thing was probably like 30 pounds.
So I grabbed, and I never would put that in a trunk because it had my computer and passport, so it always stayed with me. So I grabbed that, and I walked up to the taxi driver, who was an elderly guy. I would have said he was in his late 50s at that
This
time.
whole story, like, no basis in reality.
Right.
I mean, this elderly dude kidnaps you and then takes you to this field. It's just like, what the hell, man?
And he all of a sudden forgot that he could speak English because we had been speaking to each other for the previous 2 hours.
Yeah.
And he go, me no speak English, and I was what the
Yeah.
But I picked up the briefcase and I said, open up the trunk. He goes, me no open trunk. And I said, open the trunk or I will beat the daylights out of you. So he opened the trunk and I grabbed my other suitcase. And he goes, no, me give you a ride. And I said, nah, that's, me think police officer that way. Me go find police officer. I know your license plate. Me go talk to police. No. I take you to bus. Oh, you speak English now. Yes, I take you to bus. And I said, okay, I'll let you take me to the bus. And I pulled out my Apple phone, and back then in China, you paid for every byte of data.
Yeah, you paid per minute.
Per minute.
It's ridiculous. It was ridiculous at that point because there wasn't like WhatsApp
Right.
or anything at that point.
I turned it on. I downloaded the local map and did a search for the bus. Found out where the bus station was. I said, okay. See phone. I know where bus station is. You take me to bus station. So I got in the taxi and I put my suitcase and my briefcase in the back seat with me.
Yeah.
And I held the phone out where he could see it
Yeah.
in his rearview mirror while I watched it.
Yeah, to make sure he was taking you along the correct path.
And he takes me to the bus station and he calls up his grandson, I think it was. He calls up this young man, 12 years old, maybe 13, speaks perfect English. Hello, sir. I said, hi. He go, me, I take you to bus station and I buy you ticket to Hong Kong. And I said, is this your father or grandfather? I don't remember what I said. And he goes, yes, I'm so very sorry. And I said, yeah, I'm very sorry for you too.
Jeez.
And
oh my gosh.
so we walked over. He bought me a bus ticket. I
So
got on a bus.
You got your money back, essentially.
Well, I paid him the $400 for the taxi ride, right?
So it.
And because that was the agreement,
Yes.
and that's the kind of person I am.
Even
Right?
if they try to kidnap you, you're just gonna pay them anyway. You're like, oh, you took me here. If you did try to kidnap me, I'll just pay you.
Well, and at the end of the day, they bought the bus ticket from that cash.
That is.
So then I got to the airport, and I had missed my flight by hours by then. And I used to fly into Taiwan way early, and that way I would have plenty of time in case the plane was late to get the flight to Seattle on Eva Air. Now I'll promote Eva Air. They had the best plan for me at that time and my travel needs. But I got into Hong Kong airport and I went to EVA Air terminal, and I explained the problem, and the person working there, it's Christmas Eve, there's 8 people standing off to the side, and she goes, those 8 people are all on standby for the next and last flight into Taiwan.
Yeah.
It's highly unlikely we're going to put you on a seat there, but you can wait. And I looked at her and I said, does my EVA Air, whatever
It's
it
like
was,
gold
platinum
card, like really, like you.
Gold card,
so
make
explain
a
what that
difference.
means. That like how many miles?
It's
It's like you've flown like a crazy amount of miles, because keep in mind he's like every 2 weeks he's flying to China and back. He's flying to the other side of the world back, so it's like it's like so many miles. It would be impossible for a person to basically accrue that in their lifetime. Like
I was doing
people
the China, Malaysia, India, and
all across those and within, and
most times stopping in Taiwan on EVA Air and catching another flight into Singapore, Malaysia, or Hong Kong, wherever I was going. Hong Kong airport.
But
wow, I wonder what it's
like
like today, but I'll tell you what, that was awesome.
It was awesome Hong Kong was awesome back in the day, because you could go and like go to doctors as an American and stuff, and you didn't have to worry about your organs going missing, because literally that would happen. I mean, I don't want to be negative or derogatory, but that would happen. There were stories of that occurring and going to doctors outside of Hong Kong.
But anyhow, I pulled out my golden travel special person card. And she goes, oh, you have that? Can I see the card, please? And she grabbed it. She started typing. And I said, well, do you think you can find a seat? And she goes, just hold on a second. And then she prints out a plane ticket and hands it to me in the card. And I said, well, what gate and what time does it take off? And she goes, it's gate, whatever it was, you have 8 minutes, run. So that's what I did. I grabbed my briefcase. I checked the luggage. Didn't care if it showed up on the same plane. I'm pretty sure it didn't.
Yeah.
And I ran through Hong Kong, and dang, EVA Air was on the other side of that airport.
You ran fast. You're like actually sprinting.
Yes.
Yeah.
And as a bigger man.
Why do we keep talking about you being fat? We've brought up you being fat.
I wasn't fat.
Like a variety of times.
I was just larger.
Okay.
In a horizontal distance.
Okay. I feel bad. I keep bringing it up.
So the reality is I made the plane. We took off. And we had been flying for about 40 minutes, and it suddenly realized what had happened. I hadn't even processed.
You hadn't processed the fact you were actually kidnapped. You were just so into doing it. Yeah.
So I went through. Holy cow! I was kidnapped. They demanded money.
You refused to pay the ransom.
I didn't have the money.
Yeah.
It was impossible. But I actually threatened a group of individuals who were threatening my life, and scared them away. Got my kidnapper to buy me a bus ticket to get to Hong Kong.
It's like reverse kidnapping. They tried to kidnap you, and then you literally ended up. I mean, it was an awful situation, but you ended up relatively unscathed and on top at the end of it. Well, it's like wild.
I survived it.
Yeah.
Right.
You didn't get shanked.
I broke into tears for about 45 minutes on the airplane, just coming to a realization. And I don't know if they had done it on purpose, but they had put me in a first class seat at that time, and nobody was sitting next to me, which was probably, at least it was more comfortable for me to cry in a less public location. But
Yeah.
unbelievable story.
Yeah.
Now,
I can't believe that happened.
it's a crazy story. I've been to China probably 100 times since then.
Yeah.
I've never had an experience like that again. And to be real
that
honest,
dude was just desperate for money.
I think
so desperate that he couldn't do anything else.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And usually the experience I've had in China has been fantastic. The people there are wonderful. And I've told you this before, right? The children, you go to the stores, or I would go to the stores, and the mothers and fathers, they'd have their kids with them. They'd go grocery shopping and stuff. And they'd all go, America, America, hi, America. And they'd come and run over to me and stuff, just because I was one great big dude. And
That's because it's cute.
no, it was a lot of fun. And I've had some interesting and great times in China. Had great times in Malaysia.
Yeah.
Great times in Singapore. Great times in really had a great time in Korea. I went to the Samsung Research and Development.
Yeah, they
facility.
really thought you were cool there.
Yeah.
They gave you an award. I forgot what it was for, but they did give you an award, and that was pretty cool.
And then, business travel. I've been around the world a couple of times. I went to Eastern Germany, right? Dresden, to the Fraunhofer Institute, and that was quite a great visit. I was working on MEMS devices. So what was I saying?
I don't know. We had to replace the battery.
Oh, one of the more interesting things was I went to Holland, right?
Yeah.
The Netherlands.
Yeah.
And to the University of Delft. And I worked with an individual there. And this is an interesting story. Professor... oh my gosh, I can't remember his name.
That's okay.
I think it was Professor de Young. So it's when I go to that's why I always remember.
Oh, like the De Young, like the stuff, yeah.
Like the De Young facility for neurological technology that I go to once a week now.
Also, right? So the De Youngs, totally different story. They might be related to those De Youngs, but like in this general area, the De Youngs were like some prominent family who founded a bunch of stuff.
Yeah.
So there's a bunch of stuff in the Seattle area named after them.
So this Dr. de Young started working in a chemical factory when he was a child. And when I met him,
he was like...
he was in his mid-60s. And he was a professor at the University of Delft for chemistry. He had never been to college. He had never graduated from high school, but he had worked in these factories for chemicals, and he had learned so much, and he was given an honorable doctorate from the University of Delft, and he was in charge of a program there. Oh gosh. I'm trying to remember what the name of the program, but it was the creation of vitamin C. So it used to be we'd get vitamin C from oyster shells, and
was it a synthesizing vitamin C, perhaps?
It was the crystallization of calcium citrate, which is what most vitamin C is made out of now. And everybody was working on it. So I was in France at Shell Corporation doing calcium citrate experiments measuring particle size. I was at University of Delft working with Professor de Young, and he was a fabulous individual. I spent a couple of days with him and his graduate students, and the fascinating part of it, from my perspective, was that he, because he didn't have that formal education,
Yes, and
education, formal. He didn't have that formal education, and the doctorate was awarded to him. His knowledge was all based on practical experience of what he was exposed to for, when you talk about somebody who's in their mid to late 60s, back in, what are we talking, what am I going to say, 1989.
Yes.
Right? It's about the time the wall came down over there. So, he probably had been working since he was a child, a young teenager, right? And
yeah, very likely when he was at 15 years old, 14, he was stressed into the chemical factory out of necessity because they had a lack of people working there.
We're talking about children who got jobs to feed the family and themselves, at the end of World War II, right?
Yes.
So anyhow, he was very practical, and back in those days, those were the kinds of people who I enjoyed learning from, because their practical experience and their behaviors were ones of sharing, not of I'm the professor
superior,
and you're the student.
I know what I'm doing. It was, they had the philosophy that I heard recently that was, heard it recently in a lecture, and I'll try to sum it up. It was, even if someone, you don't know what you don't know, and you can learn stuff from literally anyone. It doesn't matter who they are. If you sit there and you listen long enough, you will learn something new from anyone. It doesn't matter where they come from, what their education is. You'll learn. If you sit there and you listen to someone, you'll learn something that's valuable, and hopefully they'll learn something from you that's valuable, as long as you're listening and engaging with them.
Yeah, everybody has a story.
Yes.
Everybody has an experience, and I talk about the big, around the circle.
Yeah.
We were talking earlier about, what were we talking about earlier?
So many things. We were talking about basically, well, what I think this delves into is people's value, and that you can find places for them.
We were talking about how, I brought up the D word, diversity, right? I was talking about people from different cultures and different experiences and different ideas, right?
Yes.
And so that's the kind, Dr. DeYoung was one of those individuals who, he didn't have the great college degree, but he was a genius. And his practical experience, exposures to cultures he grew up in, made him the expert in crystallization technologies. And so they flew me out there, and I've got my scanning laser microscope, and we're putting it into this college process to develop a crystallization algorithm. And he's got, 12, 13 graduate students all trying to get their PhDs. And they've got me in a room, and they're trying to get me to go through the electronics, what components. They're asking me part numbers of the components of the electronics and how this works. And, we were using the, back then it was a brushless DC motor, right? A pulse width modulated driven motor.
I don't know what any of that means.
That's okay.
I know.
It's that's one of those things I forgot in 1992 and wasn't able to recall what that was for roughly half a year, right?
Yes.
Until I went back to work and learned what it was again.
Yes.
Yeah, they were trying to figure out how we controlled that motor, and then we had our pneumatically driven, right? The nitrogen intrinsically safe product, but the calcium citrate was being done in water. It didn't need that kind of security to it from our safety for it, so we used an electric motor. But he walked in and he's listening to these people, and I made a comment along the lines of I'm not going to tell you what our technology is. We want you to buy it from us. And Professor DeYoung looks at his students and forgive me for what is a completely erroneous accent. He's like, "Oh, you silly, silly little children trying to get your PhD. If you hand me his design for your PhD, you will fail my class. I want you to think of something new, something different. I don't want you to do what this man has done." And
that's hilarious.
Yeah. So it was another one of those. I laughed. He laughed. The students were very angry and left. And we're in this big factory area in
like
the Delft University. Oh no, like a factory facility. We're talking hundreds of feet long and wide, and multi floors. So the students left and locked us in. They locked all the doors with padlocks.
Purposeful?
Absolutely.
Jesus Christ.
Absolutely. And so, and of course, this was all pre-cell phone days.
Yeah.
So Professor DeYoung, he goes, "Oh, they like to do this to me when they're mad at me." And
oh my gosh.
I'm just laughing. And so we had to go find a phone, right? It was other side of the factory, of course. So we're up and down stairs and through the maze. And he gets a phone and he calls the security guard and, say, "Y'all Hans, they locked me in again. Come open door for me." Oh, I'll never forget that. It was Professor DeYoung. Had the daughter, and his father had the similar issues, right? Yeah. Anyhow, but he's the guy who I'd fly out there to go visit, and then he would arrange all these meetings with them. I went and saw, I did some other weird things there, other products.
Yeah.
More good stuff.
Yeah. I think it's time to wrap up this podcast.
I
think we went 3 times as long as I thought we were going to go.
My mind is coming to a complete dead stop.
That's perfect.
All right. Well, I think that was great fun.
I think it was as well.
I probably sound like an old man bragging and meandering off of years and years of boring technology stuff.
Technology's never boring. Technology is our friend.
So, I was thinking about other episodes today too. So, you want to talk about the tattoo?
Oh, let's sign this off and then let's talk about what's next.
Okay.
Alrighty.
Bye.
Bye.
Awesome.
This was fun.
Actually, it was fun. Thank you.
Thank
I
you for
enjoyed doing
coming
it.
on.
Yeah, you're welcome.